In today's video, I'm showing you everything I eat in a day in order to build muscle while staying relatively lean. So I recorded everything that I ate yesterday, all my snacks, all my meals, and I'm gonna show you everything, and I'm also gonna show you what the final macros came out to. So for context, I'm currently aiming for 400 grams of carbs per day, 220 grams of protein, and 100 grams of fat. And that equates to about 3,380 calories. My hope is that by sharing everything that I eat in a day and how I approach building muscle nutritionally, maybe you can get a couple of ideas to use as well, whether it's a meal, whether it's a snack, or whether it's just the layout of my day. So I hope you enjoy the video. And if you are here looking for more food ideas, looking to track your macros and really see the best results possible, I have a lean muscle cookbook, like a recipe book that I put together. It's got over 20 pages of high protein, macro friendly recipes that I've been making for years. They're really incredibly easy and quick to make. I have almost no cooking skills at all. So if I can make a lot of these meals, you can as well. I'll leave that in the description below, and it's totally free. So as I dive into everything I ate yesterday that I'm gonna show you, there's a few things that I personally focus on and prioritize day to day when it comes to nutrition. The most important thing for me is my macros and trying to come as close as possible, like within 5 or 10 grams of my macros that I'm aiming for, because if I can do that, that's gonna be the number one thing that helps me improve my physique and helps me to actually change my body and sculpt the body composition that I'm going for. And physique-based goals are something that's still very important to me, that I value highly at this point in my life. Number 2 is to make sure that I have at least one vegetable every day. I don't always do it, but I at least try to make that a priority, because there's vitamins in vegetables, there's fiber, there's nutrients, and that's a health-related thing that I focus on. Number 3 is fruit. I try to have at least one fruit per day as well for the same reasons. Number 4 is fiber. I try to get at least 30 grams of fiber per day. Number 5 is I try to limit how many desserts I eat. Desserts are massively high in sugar, obviously. There's pretty much no nutritional value. Your body isn't gaining anything from them except for a short-term, good taste, but you almost always feel worse, both feeling guilty and also physically and digestion-wise. It's not something you want to eat every day, and desserts are something that I love. I have a huge sweet tooth, but as I've gotten older, I've been really trying to only have between 1 and 2 desserts per week for those reasons. And number 6 is meals out. I try to keep going out to eat to just 1 or 2 times per week as well. And that mostly has to do with hitting my macros. If you're going out to eat, you're usually gonna have to estimate what the macros are of that meal, and usually we're not gonna estimate correctly, even me who has a ton of macro tracking experience. So I try to be in control and prepare most of my own meals. I try to not have too many desserts, and I try to focus on fruits, vegetables, and hitting my macros. So let's dive into everything I ate here today. The first thing that I ate was my pre-workout snack, because the first thing I do in the morning is I wake up, I weigh in, I drink a glass of water, and I get ready for the gym. I work out in the morning before I start my work. So the first thing I had was my pre-workout snack, which is this Fiber 1 bar and a bottle of Gatorade. And I had 2 of the Fiber 1 bars. I just only took a picture of one of them here. So these Fiber 1 bars, they're not like protein bars. They're not very macro friendly. There's 28 grams of carbs per bar, 4 grams of fat, 2 grams of protein, but there's 9 grams of fiber. So I'm mainly eating it for the carbs and for the fiber to help me get to that 30 grams of fiber per day, but also for the carbs to be used as fuel before my workout. And that's why I'm having the Gatorade as well. Some people, will say never drink your calories. And I agree that if I was in a fat loss phase and if I had minimal carbs to work with, of course, you're not gonna wanna use those calories and carbs on a sugary drink. But as I mentioned before, I'm eating 400 grams of carbs per day. I've got a lot to work with, so I might as well use those both in the beginning and at the end of my workout to be used as fuel and recovery. And I'm really full. I'm eating over 3,300 calories. I'm really full on a day-to-day basis. So opting for a liquid carb source where I don't have to eat more food is helpful in my current situation, even though it doesn't really relate to what most people are in, the situation in which most people are trying to lose weight. I'm trying to build muscle and get stronger. So that's why I'm having the Gatorade there. I know there's plenty of sugar in it, but as you'll see throughout the course of my day, that's really the main thing that I am eating in the day with some sugar in it. Overall, I'm not having a very high sugar diet at all. So then I did my workout, and I came back and I had my post-workout nutrition, which is 2 scoops of this Transparent Labs Whey Isolate protein. Each scoop has 28 grams of protein, only 1 gram of carbs, and 0 grams of fat. So I had 2 scoops that got me 56 grams of protein. I also had this bagel with some cream cheese. And again, if I was in a cutting phase, or if I was eating much fewer calories, I would still have a similar post-workout meal to this, some sort of protein source with, you know, a little bit of a carb source in there as well. But instead of the bagel and cream cheese, I might have an English muffin, which is, you know, 1/3 of the calories of this bagel. Or I might have a piece of fruit instead of the bagel with cream cheese, saving me half the amount of carbs and saving me plenty of fats, right? And I'd still have the 2 scoops of protein. So there's a way to tailor these meals regardless of how much food you're eating, regardless of what phase you're in. And I hope it's helpful me explaining the difference here to you in the phase I'm in now versus what I would do if I was in a cutting phase. And the way that I have my protein, I just put 2 scoops right in my shaker bottle with about 10 ounces of water. I shake it up and I just drink it because it is so quick. It only takes a few minutes and it's very convenient. Now, my first regular meal came a couple hours later, and I had a meal from the meal prep service I used called Nutri Meals. And today I had their chicken parmesan meal, which the macros are actually very good. 58 grams of protein, only 23 grams of fat. And just for context, any restaurant you go to and if you order chicken parmesan, there's not only 23 grams of fat, there's more like 50 to 100 or more grams of fat. So this is actually macro friendly for the meal that it is. And there's also 86 grams of carbs in this meal. So again, for me, this is a very good solid meal. I put it in the microwave for 2.5 minutes and it's ready to eat. That's how I use the meal prep service. I almost use it as an automated lunch meal that I can have ready to go during the workday very easily. If you're in the Northeast like me and you want to give their meals a try, there's a 40% off discount code down below in the description as well. So far, I've eaten my pre-workout nutrition, my post-workout nutrition, and a Nutri meal, the meal prep service meal. And those 3 things are automated in my day. My pre and post-workout snack, I try to keep the same until I'm ready to switch it up. And like I said, the Nutri meal is pretty much automated as my lunch, so I don't have to think about it, I don't have to cook it. So I've already gotten in a ton of protein, well over 100 grams of protein, and I haven't even had to make one decision with my nutrition so far. So this is why I highly recommend nutrition automation, or having repetition in your meals and snacks, and having some go-to options that you don't even have to think about. Because the more decisions you have to make, the harder it is to stay consistent and to hit your macros and to see the best results possible. If everything is already decided upon, that's when you're gonna see really great results. So next up, I had a few snacks throughout the day leading up to dinner. The main snack I had is this Oikos Pro yogurt. I had 1 cup today. This 1 cup of yogurt has 20 grams of protein, 8 grams of carbs, and only 3 fat. So it's very macro friendly. Even if you're in a fat loss phase, this is an excellent option. And then what I had was about 50 grams in weight worth of blackberries and raspberries. This is something I'll often do. I'll have some berries with the yogurt just for some extra flavor, and that's how I can get my fruits in during the day. And I also added about 2 tablespoons of honey to this meal as well. So if we're talking about macros, this snack was mainly just protein and carbs, almost barely any fat at all. That being said, I am eating 100 grams of fat per day, right? So that's plenty to work with. And quite honestly, working with 400 grams of carbs and 100 grams of fat daily, it can be difficult to not choose junk food all the time. It can be somewhat challenging to try to use up those calories with good quality, healthier food options. And that's one of my main struggles, as terrible as that sounds to say, because I know that that is not the obstacle most people are facing. But in my current phase, that's what I'm going out of my way to do, is to still try to eat relatively healthy options. So to get in about 16 or so grams of fat. I went with these mixed nuts. As you can see, I weighed them out on a food scale. It's about 30 grams in weight is one serving, and that got me 16 grams of fat, very few carbs, very few protein. Nuts are predominantly a fat source, very little protein, very little carbs. So that's why I had these nuts, just to make sure that I was using it on something that had a little bit of fiber that's still relatively healthy, instead of opting for some sort of junky processed food to use up those 16 or 20 grams of fat. Okay, for dinner, we had one of our go-to meals that we keep in our rotation for dinner almost on a weekly basis. And we had homemade poke bowls. And the way that we make them is we use shrimp, we use rice, vegetables like bell peppers, cucumbers. We have these crispy onions that we put into them as well. And we have this like sriracha mayo sauce that we put over the top of it as well. So it only takes 10 to 15 minutes to make. It's very macro friendly, and depending on how much protein you want or need, you can adjust how many servings of shrimp you have in this meal as well. So I ended up having 3 servings of shrimp, which gave me about 36 grams of protein. For context, that was about 15 pieces of jumbo shrimp, so that's a lot of shrimp. I also had 2 cups of rice in this bowl as well, which is hard to see from the photo. I had about 1 big bell pepper in my portion, and I had about 2 servings of the crispy onions. I also had 2 servings of the sriracha mayo sauce. And I even put in 1 tablespoon of butter into my rice because I was gonna come up short on my fats for the day. So I needed about an extra 10 grams of fat. So I put in 1 tablespoon of butter into the rice there. So overall, this meal gave me 45 grams of protein, 36 grams of fat, and 100 grams of carbs. And again, if you need to adjust the macros of these, if you need less fat, leave the butter out, or don't use the crispy onions, or only use half the amount of the sauce that I used. And it could easily be around, you know, the fat could be cut in half. If you need less carbs, use 1 cup of rice instead of 2. And all of a sudden you have 45 grams of carbs instead of 100. So that's literally everything I ate yesterday to hit my macros, and my final macros came out to this. I had 222 grams of protein. I was aiming for 220, so I was within 2 grams. I ate 399 grams of carbs. I was aiming for 400, so I came within 1 gram of my target. And I ate 103 grams of fat. I was aiming for 100, so I came within 3 grams of my fat target. I also had 37 grams of fiber, which I'm very happy with. Like I said, I'm typically aiming for between 30 and 50 grams of fiber per day. So a few things that I'm like evaluating in my own diet. I had multiple sources of protein, which is good, right? I'm trying to avoid just like only being my main protein source as being protein powder, or just, you know, just being one thing. But I got in the protein powder, I got in the chicken from the chicken parmesan, I got in the shrimp, I got in the yogurt, which gave me 20 grams of protein. I got in some vegetables with the bell pepper and cucumber in the poke bowl. I got in some fruit with the berries that I used with my yogurt. And I didn't really have anything like too sugary aside from that Gatorade. There really wasn't any desserts or any, you know, really high sugar foods in my day, which is pretty good. Now, if you're interested in seeing a full day of eating video in a fat loss phase, or eating a different amount of food, I've got tons of them on my channel. I've got full day of eating for 2,000 calories, for 2,500 calories, for 3,000 calories, for 3,500. There's maybe a dozen videos on my channel throughout the years, so feel free to check out the one that might interest you most. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you on the next one, which I'm gonna leave for you right up here, and I'll see you over there.